Jay Ruder here, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to build a balanced build. This guide is for beginners, but maybe veterans or experts of the game can learn something from this. Let's get started. I must emphasize, like I have in the last two videos, if you're new to the game, please go watch how to optimize a handling build and speed build. You're going to need those two guides to be able to do the balanced build, and I will explain that here shortly. But first things first, if you're new, never use quick upgrades. This hinders your entire ability to tune a car. So let's get started. First things first, to build a balanced build, you must first look at your speed build and your handling build. You're going to want to look at the handling aspect of the car. So we got a 6.6 and a 6.0 on the speed build. We're going to take those two numbers and average those, and it comes out to 6.3. That gives us the exact handling that we need for the car. So the first thing that we're going to do is look at our weight reduction, brings it up to a 6.2. So you want to make your car as light as possible in a balanced build because you want to be light and also have more power than handling build. Granted that you're not going to have the handling or the speed to keep up with either build, but the point of this car is for your average tracks or your acceleration tracks. Mainly for your acceleration tracks. So we're going to look at our tire width, and not going to get much improvement there. Going to get a 6.2. Let's see, and that's going to bring us up to a 6.3. All right, we don't have to use the fully upgraded, so we can go with the first tire width for the front, and we're going to retain as much PI points as possible. Now, since this car does have a rear wing that does have downforce, most of my balanced builds, I do not want any downforce on it whatsoever. You gain about 0.2 points in speed, and you really don't get anything PI increase out of it. So more acceleration, a little more speed. You definitely want more speed than you want downforce. So gonna take off that wing. Gonna go back to our tire upgrade and go to the next level, and then the final level, and we're unable to retain that 6.3 because of the rear. So maybe if we go to tire compound, the race compound, that brings us up to 6.3. And maybe we can deaden the width of the tire, which we can. And that gives us the 6.3 with 772 PI. So that gives us a little bit to work with in power. So after you get that done and you get your handling where you want it, which we want a 6.3 for this car, we're going to get our essentials, which would be springs, anti-roll bars. We won't worry about the cage because all it does is add weight and really doesn't benefit you at all. I'm going to put on the race transmission because I love tuning my own gears, and race differential. Those are my essentials. Your essentials may be different, but always put on springs and roll bars. This allows you to tune the most important part of the car, and that is your suspension. You can tune it to your own style of driving. So, and same thing with the racing differential. That's another fine-tuning tool that you can use to make your own driving style. All right, going to engine upgrades. Let's see what we can upgrade here. All right. Since it does have a supercharger, I do like to max that out to see how much power I can get out of it. So I can get 84 horsepower out of it. And then the cam, these are your big hitters. These will give you the most power out of the two upgrades. So 111 horsepower with the cam. The only difference between the cam and the supercharger is the supercharger is going to add weight to your car. Not much weight, only about 9 pounds. Which that's not too bad. And that puts us at 798. This will put us over, so 705. And you definitely got to do a lot of testing. See what's the best combination you can get. So Looks like right now 734 with the supercharger and maybe something else. Let's see. Doesn't have an intercooler. And that brings us to 742. So don't make this your last upgrade choice here. This is only one combination of many combinations you can make here. And the balanced build, it really is all about balancing your handling and your power at the same time. So, all right, so 800 PI with this combination gives us 742. And these are, well, the supercharger is your heavy hitting PI because it does boost your power significantly and quicker. But we want to try to avoid the PI killing points from the exhaust and the intake. Those make your car lighter and can cost you more PI. And the power isn't that significant. So let's try fuel injection, the ECU, and spark plugs, the valves, the engine block, and the pistons. So that brings us up to 799 and 735 horsepower. So it looks like the supercharger and the one valve might be the better option here. Who knows? Maybe the cam might be the better option. So let's try that combination real quick. And that is essential to building any car, is you got to test every possibility to maximize every situation. Whether it be handling or speed, testing is essential. So we're going to stay away from the PI killers, the exhaust, and the intake because it does lighten the car significantly. We're going to go with an all cam build, which we're going to have to go with the sport camshaft, which brings us to 705. And start with the valves. The block brings us to 747 with an 801. So the cam combination is looking pretty good. I can knock that 1 point off by increasing weight to the car by putting on a bigger rim or something. So that 1 point isn't significant, but the power is. So let's see. All right, so the cam build gives us 747 horsepower and with very little components, so that's always nice. Makes things quicker. So what was the supercharger valve build? 747. So now we got two combinations that created the same amount of power, but did it create the same amount of torque? Torque is very essential to any build because it is your acceleration. So with the supercharger valve combination, we get 747 foot-pounds of torque. With the cam setup, let's see what that gave us. There's the valve in the block, which with the valve in the block, I think it loses a little bit of weight. And there we go. The supercharger valve setup would be the better setup because the torque is better. You get 699 foot-pounds of torque, still 747 horsepower, but not the same amount of torque. So we're going to be going with the full valve and supercharger setup so we can have the superior torque in our build. And now I'm going to show you how to knock that one little point off. Let's see here. We're going to go to our rims. Try to get a rim that's about the same size. See if you could increase the size of that rim and knock that 1 point off by putting a little weight. We can't, so we're going to have to use a bigger rim. Let's see, that brings us straight down to 800. That's 801. So we're going to go with that rim. And that's going to give us a pretty solid car, which in the point of a balanced build, you do want more acceleration than you do anything. So if we look at our loaded setups, our handling build has a 8.9 in acceleration. And for some reason, the Corvettes just don't accelerate. all that well. I've never understood that. They have like the best mechanical grip there is, but who knows? It could be the way they balance the car out. So 747 horsepower, 747 foot-pounds of torque. Puts you right in between the two builds somewhat. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And put that as B1. And now you can test each like kind of handling. Which handling you're more comfortable with. 6.3 is for those who aren't that comfortable in handling, mainly for beginners. But the more veteran drivers may prefer a 6.1 or a 6.2. So what if let's reset everything. What if I went with a 6.1? Let's see what we can get out of it with a 6.1. All right. That puts me at a 6.2. That puts me way higher than I want to be, but it does lighten up the car. Let's look at street compound. That will bring me up to a 6.1, giving me a lot of grip. So I'm probably going to go with that. Then I'm going to take the rear wing off. As we learned previously, it does increase your top end by 2 points. And it gives us a whole lot more PI to work with, so we can put significantly more power in the car. And what we learned from the 6.3 build is that the supercharger is probably the best combination to go with as starting off. So, all right, gonna put my essentials on. I know a lot of people will argue, well, the PI is just not there for the race transmission, but it's 4 points, and there's a lot of things that you can do with the transmission that can definitely give you an edge over a lot of people. So that's why I personally keep the transmission, but everyone has a different view. All right, so we're going to put on our supercharger and our valves, which that's going to put us at the same as our 6.3 build, but we have significantly more points to work with. So let's see if we can put the cam on there. We can put the cam on there. So that puts us up at 875 horsepower, and we can still push that with maybe an engine block. Brings us to an 8.0, maybe a piston, which that will max us out at a 923 horsepower and a 809 foot-pounds of torque with a 6.1 build, which that is downright scary. The only other car that I know that has that kind of power and that kind of handling would be the GTR Viper, which I've always considered that to be busted PI, but that's my own opinion. So don't be afraid to test things. Test different combinations. Find the one that you're most comfortable with, and then just go ahead and save it. Try each one. I'm going to name this B2 for my second balance build. Maybe it'll work well on particular tracks. Bathurst seems to be a pretty good speed track, so it may do very well there. So I hope y'all have learned a lot from this. This has been Jay Runer. Like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.